Thank you, Wendell. Good evening, viewers, and welcome to tonight's regional news. We begin in Trinidad. Devon Charles, the main suspect in the kidnapping and murder of Andrea Barrett, has died. Charles, 38, died at the Mount Hope Hospital on Monday afternoon. He had been in a coma for several days after police said he was injured in an escape attempt. He had suffered severe brain injuries and was paralyzed. Charles, also known as Joel Balcon, was one of 6 people held in connection with the killing. Suspect Andrew Morris, 35, of Tunapuna Road, Arima, died at the Arima Hospital on February 1, but his death was reported on February 3. 3 other suspects remain in custody. Meanwhile, the family of Andrea Barrett was expecting answers in her death, but an autopsy performed Monday at the Forensic Sciences Center by pathologist Dr. Sunu Sekargajula proved inconclusive. It means that at this stage, police cannot charge anyone for murder. Continuing in Trinidad and Tobago, police are trying to determine whether skeletal remains found at the bottom of a precipice on Sunday are that of a human being after a major police-led operation in the heights of a repo. If pathologists at the Forensic Science Center in St. James confirm the bones are human, it would be the 3rd corpse found by police in that area over the course of a week. An exercise to retrieve the bones, dubbed Operation Aripo Sweep, saw over 240 police officers, soldiers, firemen, and hunters returning to the forest 3 days after the body of kidnapped victim Andrea Barrett was found down at the precipice. The skeletal remains found on Sunday were discovered not too far from where Barrett's body laid. Police went back to the area after 2 sets of bones, one of which was human, were found in the area last week. The cops went back to the scene to make sure there were no other bodies there. The search was conducted at the same time as hundreds of people marched around the Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain, demanding changes to the law to prevent or at least minimize incidences of violent attacks, abuse, and even the murder of women and children. We now turn our attention to Venezuela. Venezuelan migrants and asylum seekers in Colombia will be granted protected status for up to 10 years. Colombian President Iván Duque announced on Monday alongside Filippo Grandi, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Venezuelans who arrive in Colombia before January 31 will be allowed to remain in the country for a decade under the new rules. Holding protected resident status will also allow migrants to legally work and help them integrate into society. During the meeting, Duque said Venezuelans have left their country, I quote, due to the dictatorship and poverty, end of quote, and that, I quote, it hurts us to see these circumstances, end of quote. The United Nations estimates approximately 5.4 million Venezuelans have fled their country amid a crippling economic crisis, as well as threats of violence, political instability, and a lack of basic goods and services. More than 1.7 million Venezuelans now live in neighboring Colombia, and of that, some 966,000 do not have legal status in the country, according to Colombia's Migration Authority. And finally, on the international scene, a team from the World Health Organization (WHO) and a joint Chinese mission investigating the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic in Wuhan, China, said that it is extremely unlikely the coronavirus was leaked from a Chinese lab and is more likely to have jumped from animals to humans. The World Health Organization team, who began the investigation after a 2-week quarantine and more than a year after COVID-19 was first detected in Wuhan, released the first details of their month-long fact-finding mission in China. They suggested that the virus is likely to have originated in animals and that a transmission via frozen food is a possibility that warrants a further investigation. Data suggests that COVID-19 could have been circulating in other regions before being identified in Wuhan, according to Dr. Liang Waninan, the Chinese lead on the joint international team of scientists. I quote, this indicates the possibility of misreported circulation in other regions, end of quote, Waninan said. And that is all for your regional news. Thank you for joining. Back to you, Wendell.